What's up, guys? What's going on? I'm Paul. This is Pauline Theology's Daily Devo with Trust in Jesus Ministries. Glad you're back as we're continuing our study through Genesis. We're going to go through 2 days this time, guys, day 2 and day 3. So pick up your Bibles, read chapter 1, 6 through 13, and let's dive into it. If you haven't read it yet, go ahead and stop the tape, check it out, see what it has to say, and come back. We'll answer the 4 questions. If you have, let's go and dive on in. We talked about day 1. We talked about day 2. We talked about in the beginning. Now we are on day. Wait a sec. I'm sorry. We talked about in the beginning and we talked about day 1. Now we're on day 2. So what's it say? It says, and God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it be divided between the waters and the waters. And God God made the expanse, and it divided between the waters which were under the expanse and the waters that were above the expanse. And it was thus. And God called the expanse the sky, and God called the expanse the sky, and it was evening and it was morning, day 2. And then God said, let the waters gather together from under the sky into one place. And then let dry land appear. And it was thus. And God called the dry land, or the dry ground land. And then he called the waters that were gathered together seas. And God saw that it was good. And then God said, let the earth sprout green vegetation, bearing seed, tree, fruit, producing fruit after its own kind, which is the seed within itself upon the earth. And it was thus. And the earth sprouted forth green vegetation, bearing seed that is of its own kind, trees producing fruit, which has seed in it of its own kind. And God saw that it was good. And it was evening and it was morning, day 3. So what we got here is God first creating land. This is the last, this is the first day where he does 2 creations. He not only creates dry land and the sky. This is day 3. I'm skipping ahead. I'm sorry. Day 2, he creates the sky and the waters below. And then day 3, he creates 2 things. He creates first dry land, and then he inhabits that land with plant life. And so we have God naming the seas, and we have him naming land. And then after he names the seas and names the land, he no longer names anything, because he leaves or reserves that for mankind, whom he puts in charge over all things. Yeah, we'll see that when we get to chapter 2. But as God makes these things, he actually moves from what is separating things, which is pretty cool, because oftentimes we think about separation as a bad thing, but God is separating things to make things good, to make things great. He separates the sky from the waters below, making the seas, which causes us to have the sky. One thing about the sky is that all of these things that we hear or see or talk about are phenomenological. That means they are seeing what is happening, and they are writing these things as how they see them. And so the word for expanse could also be considered vault. And it's funny that the way they say that, because it holds all the waters up. It keeps all the waters up. It's the vault where God opens up the heavens and pours water upon dry land. So it's like a vault. I just thought that was cool how they thought about that word, that sense, which could mean expanse or firmament or vault, or even like bronze. Whenever there was famine in the land, it said it's like the vault was so strong it was like bronze. So that's just the way that they word things based upon how they see things is pretty cool. But yeah, so then we have on day 3 that God creates this land, or I'm sorry, not land, but on the land that He creates trees, and He creates plants that bear fruit after its own kind, or bear seed after its own kind, and then trees that bear fruit after its own kind. So here's where we get the understanding of evolution. That microevolution is something that I believe occurs because you can't strict the word kind to mean species or what do they call it, genus. But it is, though, understanding that there is a certain division between groups. We talked about that separation, about how that's a good thing. And then we also have division here in a certain way between plants and how they produce. And we'll see that again with animals when we get to that day of their creation. Anyway, what is all of this saying about God? Well, I think it's saying He's an ordered God, that He doesn't just allow things to just do whatever. He makes specific ways that things are produced. Trees bear trees. The fruit from trees bear other trees. The seed of a plant bears a seed of that same type of plant, that same kind of plant. He does things in order. And then not only does that, but He's also the authoritative ruler as He continues to name these things. He continues to name the waters sea and the dry ground land. So He's still over and abundantly in control of all that He is doing, because He is the one that produces it. But I like to say, like I said earlier, that we see that as the ending of the naming that God does, because He's going to appoint another to name. And that means He's a giving God. I think that it's amazing that He would give over some authority to humans to rule with Him. And so we're blessed. We're blessed in that way. And then finally, He's a beautiful artist. And it says that He looks at these things and He says it was good. He looks and sees the things that He's produced, the earth, the waters, the seas, the sky, that He has made the trees, and it's just beautiful. Like I said in the previous podcast, that the term tov can also mean beautiful. It's good. It means good, but it can mean also aesthetically pleasing. And so some translations actually say, and God saw all that it was beautiful. It's wonderful, His creation. What does it say about man? I think it says that we're blessed. It's because God is producing all of these things, setting up and inhabiting this world so that we can live in it. That's the culmination of all of creation, is mankind. And so God is gifting us with this wonderful creation that we can live in. We don't even have to we don't have to set anything up, build houses, or anything like that. God does everything it needs in order for it to sustain itself. That's why it says seed producing seed. And then He puts us in this place so that we can reap the fruits, no pun intended, reap the fruits of all of the things that He's done for us. So we are blessed. Well, how can we apply these truths to our lives? That God is a ordered God and the ruler of all things, a giving God and a beautiful artisan. And then how do we take that and understand our blessedness in this as well? Well, I think first off, we just recognize and then receive the gifts that God has given us. Recognize and then receive. We got to open our eyes, because sometimes we're so clouded by the world around us, and it's easy to be so because of the busyness of the world, and just the sadness and destruction that is going on in this world, man, because of sin. But we still, in those times, just recognize, man, open our eyes and see the goodness that God is still creating in our lives, the good things. And then second, man, go outside, look at a tree, see how beautiful it is. Go outside, look at the sky, see how marvelous it is. Go outside, pick some plants, and see how good it is. If it's springtime, then check out the blooming flowers. If it's fall, check out the changing leaves. If it's summer, I know it's hot, but get out into the waters and see that beautiful shimmering lake or sea or ocean or even pool. And if it's the winter, man, and you get snow, wow, that's amazing. So go do that. And I appreciate you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.